Good morning, children. Sarah. So today we are going to continue with chapter number 8, Confronting Marginalization, Political Science. Children, in your earlier chapter, you have studied about marginalization, that what actually marginalization means. Now we have the sequel of this topic, confronting marginalization. That is, when we are talking about marginalization, what actually is the situation when people deal with it. When we are talking about marginalization, how do people deal with it? Actually, the thing is, or you can say the point to be explained or to be dealt in this chapter is that what does the term confronting marginalization refers to. So let's discuss. But before moving ahead with the chapter, I would like to give you a brief review sketch of understanding marginalization. Now, getting to the preview of the previous chapter. In previous chapter, that is chapter number 7, we read about two different groups and their experiences of inequality and discrimination. Though powerless, such groups have fought, protested, and struggled against being excluded or dominated by others. They have attempted to overcome their situation. That is, these people, the people who are living in a so-called democratic country where each and everyone, one and all, is allowed to have access to their rights, to their you can say duties. These people are discriminated on their specific basis. These people are actually considered as a minor section of the minor community of the society, or you can say minority. Now, in this chapter, what we are going to discuss. Earlier, it was a discussion. It was a discussion about how the people in when we read, and I made you understand about how the people are living their lives in a dissected or in a bifurcated manner. Okay, children. And now in this chapter, we are going to understand the plea, that is the plight, actually, the plight of the people. Of which people? The people who come under a minority. Now, who are these people? Which special people are they? Okay, these people are, children, the people which come under this category are the Adivasis, Dalits, Muslims, and women. Other marginal groups argue that simply by being citizens of a democratic country, they possess equal rights. And now the problem is the people of these minority sector face a lot of problems. A lot of, you can say, people living in majorities snub their rights, and they are not able to access the rights which they do have in our country. So now let's continue with let's begin the chapter. Now, first thing is, what does the term Dalit means? The term Dalit means broken. That is something which is broken off from the roots. That is deliberately used actively by the groups to highlight the centuries of discrimination they have experienced within the caste system. That is, the people have actually, these people who are so called the majority, who are so called considered as the majority community of the society, are actually paying, you can say, or you can easily understand this word, that they try to create a structure for the people who are in minor quantity, minor root, you can say, they are paying minor segments of the society. They contribute as a minor portion of the society. They do not have much to inherit and much to access with. They are not able to get along with the major segments as well as the major population of the society. And basic one of the most important reason you can say that why they are neglected or ignored is because that people do not want to accept them as a regular part of the community. When we talk about the constitution, we all know that the first thing is to provide equal laws, rights and duties to all citizens of the country, but still people till date have not considered these minor sectors of society as a normal being. According to the Article 17 of the Constitution, which states that untouchability has been abolished. What this means is that no one can henceforth prevent Dalits from educating themselves, entering temples, using public facilities, etc. It means that it is wrong to practice untouchability, and this practice will not be tolerated by a democratic government. In fact, untouchability is a punishable offense. Now, do you think, children, do you really think that this untouchability or the caste discrimination, gender discrimination has been totally finished off? No, not at all. This gender discrimination doesn't find any kind of, you can say, uh, end. There is no end to this gender discrimination. Now, why? We ourselves are not ready to accept, first of all, untouchability, and then it is gender discrimination. Caste discrimination is a much worrying, concerning topic, but the only thing is that people are not ready to leave these discriminations. Now, how? There are other sections in the Constitution that help to strengthen the argument against untouchability. Article 15 is the best example, or you can say it is the main support system for these people who are disturbed and bothered by the discrimination on the basis of religion, caste, race, sex, place of birth, etc. Now, what more further? Dalits, what can actually Dalits do? What are their rights? Dalits can invoke or draw on a fundamental right. That is a situation where they feel that they've been treated, if they are treated badly, they can ask, or you can say they can seek for help from the law. That is, they can complain. They have drawn attention from the government of India to the constitution, demanding that the government abide by it and do justice to them. Likewise, other minority groups which have drawn on the fundamental section of our constitution, they have particularly drawn upon the right to freedom and religion and cultural educational rights. Now, what is it? I read the lines very fast. Now, the purpose of reading them fast is that you all know that the Dalits or any person who belongs to a low caste, otherwise in general terms there is no low caste. The Indian system of placing the caste have been very rigid since the ancient times, right, children? Earlier it was like, first they used to place the Kshatriyas, then Brahmanas, then the Shudras. Fine. But nowadays, or these concepts are not applicable. Fine. These concepts are not applicable, but still we know that in our houses, in our own houses, these this particular process is prevalent. We still are not able to get rid of this caste taboo. We still go ahead with these. We still follow, whether willingly or unwillingly. Many people practice the law of not promoting, or you can say not respecting, the people who belong to the low caste, or who are going ahead with the cleaning of the toiletries or public sanitation places, etc. Why such a discrimination? So even if we try to eradicate this taboo from our society, so we have to take the first step. Now, taking or talking about the people, marginalized people, under which we have main categories: the Adivasis, then we have women, and the people called Dalit, who are actually considered the low caste, and the, you can say, they are not looked upon as people, they are treated as animals. Fine, children. Quoting, if we say, apart from the political science mode of view, we have a famous writer who has mentioned Mulkraj Anand, and he has mentioned the story of a boy where he belonged to a, a low caste category, and he used to clean the toiletries. He used to pick up, you can say, clean dustbins. He used to pick up the garbage as well as the dung from different people's home, or you can say the people who used to belong to the so-called high society or the aristocratic society. But in lieu of that, the people, that is the so-called upper high class, and the mediocre, or yes, bourgeoisie class, that is the mediocre middle class people, they used to disrespect that boy. Reason being his work. That particular boy was not given food properly. He was given food in a manner as if people throw food in front of a street dog. When we talk about giving food to someone, people give food respectfully to even animals. But when it came, or even till date, if it comes to the such people, if it comes to the point of view, treating of the people, when it comes to the treating of these people, they were disrespected, highly disrespected. So this this funda of disrespecting and not treating these people with full respect has been prevalent. So now the government has made rules, or they have given access to these people. So for the provision, or you can say safeguard, or providing them security, that these people can also have religion and cultural educational rights. They can choose the religion they want to, they can perform cultural activities of their choice, and they can study well, they can get education with full respect. Now, in case of cultural and educational rights, distinct cultural and religious groups like the Muslims and Parsis have the right to be the guardians of the content of their culture, as well as the right to make decisions on how best this content is to be preserved. Thus, by granting different forms of cultural rights, the Constitution tries to ensure cultural justice to such groups. The Constitution does this so that the culture of these groups is not dominated nor wiped out by culture of the majority community. Now, laws for the marginalized. As you have read, The government makes laws to protect its citizens. Yet, this is not the only way in which it takes action. There are specific laws and policies, and it actually promotes effort in the marginalized country. In a country which is marginalized like ours, there are policies and schemes that emerge through other means like setting up a committee or by undertaking a survey, etc. The government then makes an effort to promote such policies in order to give opportunities to specific groups. Now, why specific opportunities have been given to specific groups? So that they feel respectful and do not feel dejected or disrespected. How to promote through social justice? What is social justice and how does it promote it? As a part of their effort to implement the constitution, both state and central government create specific schemes for implementation in tribal areas or in areas that have a high Dalit population. For example, the government provides free or subsidized hostels for students of Dalit and Adivasi communities so that they can avail of education facilities that may not be available in their localities. This provision of providing and promoting social facilities, okay, social facilities to these marginalized or the minority community people actually invokes the feeling of respect and equality. Now, in addition to providing facilities, the government also operates through laws to ensure that concrete steps are taken to end inequity in the system. That is, no partiality has been done and no inequality should take place. One such law or policy is the reservation policy that today is both significant and highly contentious. Now, this reservation policy, what is the meaning of this reservation policy and why? See, when we are talking about reservation policies in different sectors and segments of the society, whether it is education, whether it is jobs, whether n number of things are there. Fine. So why? So that nobody snubs the right of these Dalit people, the people who are in minority community or who belong to the scheduled caste or scheduled tribe. So putting a halt over children, we'll continue this chapter in our next class. Thank you, Sairam, and have a great day ahead.